You're never gonna make it, you're not good enough. There's a million other people with the same stuff. You really think you're different? Man, you must be kidding. Think you're gonna hit it, but you just don't get it. It's impossible, it's not probable, you're irresponsible. Too many obstacles, you gotta stop it, yo. You gotta take it slow, you can't be a pro. Don't waste your time no more. Cause all these opinions and all these positions, they come in millions. They blocking your vision, but no, you can't listen. That shit is all fiction. Cause you
Hello, my name is Brett Jenny.
My name is what?
Yeah.
My name is what?
Ooh, the crypto agent.
The crypto agent, man.
So we kind of, Dan and I started this Thursday afternoon podcast, because we wanted to get a little more in depth with cryptocurrency, touch on stock market and all that good stuff, but mainly kind of cryptocurrency for the first half hour, I would say, or first couple of minutes. And that kind of came out of the need of, we were kind of talking about crypto on some of our other podcasts, but we don't always get the allotted amount of time. And people kind of get cut off and everyone has an opinion. So to kind of not go live at this exact second is going to be beneficial to me to be able to kind of have the time that I want to explain things. So with that being said, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin is one of those things where it's a deeply emotional thing, Dan, right? I mean, you see people, I have people, friends of mine, that it's more of a conviction, right? So it comes down to a belief system, which is when I kind of start talking about cryptocurrency, and you can understand definitions and protocols and all that stuff, but that stuff doesn't really matter, right? What matters is why it's such a moving thing and why it's such a powerful thing. And to me, when you study the history of money, you understand, you start to wrap your brain around why this is such an important thing. We've had many discussions about this before, Dan.
Oh, yeah.
And, it's one of those things, it's a belief system. So people can come at me all the time and they say, well, there's nothing behind it. It's fake. There's nothing to back it up. But really it comes from people not understanding what it is. Mm-hmm. Correct? Because for every kind of false narrative that anyone has towards Bitcoin, you can apply that towards fiat. Or any currency that we've ever had, correct? I mean, if you look at currency with any civilization since the beginning of time, sooner or later it's been manipulated.
Correct.
And what was all of that currency based off of? A belief system.
It's based off a belief system. So let's talk a little bit. I'm going to bring some things up here about.
Okay,
So first off, let's talk a little bit about crypto and where it's at in the world. So we know that there's been talks where it's going to be potentially going to be taxed.
Sure.
We know that Biden, and you look at, they got a digital yuan in China right now. And they're talking about doing that same thing here in the U.S., where the government's kind of coming up with its own cryptocurrency.
Yeah. So anybody who's in cryptocurrency, that's the funny thing about it, Dan, is they love the idea of a digital currency because they can ultimately track you. If there's no cash and there's just all digital currency, hey, if you don't get this vaccination, then you don't get this.
But do you think it's going to get to that far?
What? I don't know, and I'm not going to make that assumption. I do know that it allows them to track you in every sense or form. Like, look at China, communist state, where they have hundreds of thousands of surveillance cameras throughout the entire country. So now they're going to control all of your finances as well, in a sense. But the whole point of Bitcoin and digital currency is that it's decentralized. That's the whole point of it. Decentralization means that not one government, one company, one form, one entity can control or manipulate it because it's not owned by anybody. And that's the whole point. See, so they think that, digital currency is just the latest gimmick for how we're going to distribute money. Mm-hmm. But it's what's behind Bitcoin that is the difference, because Bitcoin is, like I said, it's decentralized. So that means that no government can control it. These governments want to come out with their own version of a digital coin, but it's all centralized.
I see.
So how is that any different than what they're already doing now?
So
it just enables them to follow you and track you and more, because now it's all digital.
So is this a way for them to push out the people that currently have cryptocurrency? So for the new generations, they're going to say, hey, look, ours is stronger.
Sure.
You don't need to go to these.
That's what they want to do, and they're going off the ignorance of people not knowing and understanding what Bitcoin is. So people think, oh, well, the government's just going to come out with their own digital form. Well, it's not that it's a digital currency. It's that it's decentralized. That's the point behind it. If it's not decentralized, then it's just another new form of currency that already exists. The idea of finally having a currency that nobody can control, the idea of money actually being free for the first time in human history, and then you accompany that with kind of the urban legend, and it was kind of started in response at the same time that the economy was crumbling in the housing market in 2008.
Okay.
So that's the whole point of it. Everything from the inception of Bitcoin, from the time that it came out and the time that we needed it most, in a sense.
Got
you
it.
know?
Yeah, I guess the thing with me is people want to know, is it safe? And then how do you keep it safe?
Sure. So it is safe. I mean, there's a lot of misinformation about Bitcoin, which is, so number one, here's the thing about Bitcoin. Ultimately, it takes a bit to kind of understand how it works.
Okay.
So that part scares people. Number two, it's just misinformation. So number one, they don't understand it. Number two, it's coming with misinformation that goes along with it.
Sure.
So it is absolutely safe. In fact, that's the whole point of Bitcoin. People say, see, ultimately the government can hack into it and they can do all these things. Let me give you an example. One of the greatest hacks in Bitcoin history was in 2016, and we spoke about this in the past. And it was this couple that they busted last month in the state of New York that ended up, hacking like $500 million worth of Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. How the government was able to eventually track these people was they did an initial small purchase of the Bitcoin that they got from stealing. So they're able to see the Bitcoin that came out of the wallet and track them. They're able to get a search warrant. The search warrant allowed them to hack into this person's cloud.
I see. So like you got that wallet, right?
The person stored their information for their Bitcoin on this cloud. So that's how the government was able to get it. It's like an email, right? When you put your Bitcoin on an exchange or you put your Bitcoin anywhere out there into the world, it comes with an address, right? So it's like an email. The only people that can hack your email are if you provide them the password. When you put your Bitcoin on an exchange, you're essentially giving up your password to the exchange so they can access your Bitcoin and put it on their exchange. So if all the government has to do is go to that exchange and say, hey, we want your records on all these people. And if they want to stay compliant with the US government and do business in the United States, they'll provide that to them.
Yeah.
And so all they need to do is track it down to that and say, and that's how they're able to get it. So it's decentralized in the sense that it's a bunch of computer nodes around the world that verify the transactions. So in a sense, all these computer nodes around the world are working together to replace what the bank does, which is receive the money, verify that the money's legit and that it's good, and then distribute it out to whoever they need to. Well, this is all decentralized, which means all these computers working together verify it. So that takes away that aspect.
Okay.
So it's all decentralized. So if you put it on a ledger, then it's never going on an exchange. If it never goes on an exchange, nobody other than you can ever, in a sense, have the password to your email.
Got you.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can transact all over the world. So let's take, for example, right now what's happening in Ukraine. People are crossing borders. They're doing all these things. They need food. They need money, all these things. So what if you have your country that's crumbling? Are you going to go to the bank and grab out your loads of cash? What if the currency in your country is crippling and falling and further down and down and depreciating more and more and more? What are you going to take up suitcases full of your cash and put it in suitcases and walk across your border where your money is not good in that country? Mm-hmm. But if you have a worldwide agreed upon currency, you can store that Bitcoin in your cell phone. You can put your cell phone in your pocket and you can walk from border to border to border to border to border, and your money remains the same value no matter where you go. Now, if you're in America and we're the currency for the world, you're like, okay, I understand, but our money's already good. We can already do that. But that's a first world American mentality. 2/3 of the world lives in poverty. 2/3 of the world, most of the world is not America.
Right.
Where this does affect them a lot more.
Sure.
So tell, like, say, someone in Venezuela who in the last 7 or 8 years their currency value has depreciated 90%. And you did nothing but keep it in the bank.
Yeah.
What loss do you have to stick that into Bitcoin?
True.
Right? So that's kind of the point about it is cross-border payments, same thing. You have an investor who wants to buy a house, for instance, with Bitcoin, and they're in China, and they need to wire over $200,000 for earnest money. They can literally bring up their phone, beep, 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 send, done. Just like that, within minutes, you're receiving $1 million, $2 million, whatever it is. So the exchanges and everything that you go through will do their KYC, which is their know your customer.
Yeah.
Which is your normal due diligence. And these accounts are affiliated with regular banks, Chase Bank, Bank of America.
Right.
So the crypto's coming in, but it's hitting the banks. The banks are verifying that it's legit, and then you get distributed your cash. But it can go 1, 2, 3, just like that. You don't need to go through all these channels. It can be done immediately. It's super easy. So there's a lot of beneficial ways like that, but most importantly, it's decentralized. So nobody can ever come in and control it. What if, like in Canada, we're talking about, where the Prime Minister of Canada came in to these truckers and said, you're blocking up our roads. You can't allow goods and supplies to leave and enter this country because you're a protest.
Right.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, I'm going to freeze your bank accounts, and I'm going to freeze everybody who's involvement with you. I'm going to freeze all their bank accounts. This is a peaceful protest. But the fact that the government can come in at will, if they disagree with your thoughts and shut down your financial means, is absolutely insane. It's tyranny.
So let's talk.
It's absolutely insane. And this is what Bitcoin was for.
Right.
Was for this exact purpose. Because as evidenced again, the government, when it's controlled by one central figure, can do what they want with your money.
Yeah.
But Bitcoin is for the people.
What is going on with the market today? Right. You look at the cryptocurrency. We're in a bear market. Everybody, a bull market. It's not a bull market. It was last year.
Yep.
Maybe the beginning was a bull
So
market.
personally, here's what I think is going to happen with the market. I think as of yesterday or 2 days ago, the SEC came out with their guidance for crypto. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that it was anything that if you're into crypto said, oh, now we're good to go and the sky's the limit. But what they did do is we now know worst case scenario is no longer on the table. And that's where it makes a difference. Is they're still not completely clear with what they're going to do, but we know that the worst case nuclear option of shutting it all down and banning it is now off the table. Right? So Bitcoin's gone up the last day or two because of that. It depends who you talk to. Keep in mind that, there's a lot of people in the game, and it's like stocks, right? You got a lot of people marketing and having their own opinion. I can go by a few different opinions, and when I say opinions, I say OGs, which are people who have been in Bitcoin since 2011, 2012, when it was like $2, when it was like $5.
Right.
They think that the government is going to make everybody feel that they're going along with things and with crypto, and that they're copacetic with everything the whole time to get people to go over to digital currency that the government uses, and then basically try to pull the rug out from underneath cryptocurrency. And then once they kind of get what they want with that market, kind of try to pull the rug out. Well, the problem with that is, number one, it's a worldwide thing. It's just not an American thing. And number two, it's already turned the corner. So good luck.
Let me say this. Okay, if I'm going to go into any investment, but
sure.
Is this when you look
because it's known for a lot of volatility,
right,
and manipulation.
Correct. So that's exactly.
So this is what I'm talking about with the very first conversation I said about this. Is like you can apply that to fiat. So how is there not volatility and manipulation in the stock market?
Well, there is, right?
So why are we asking it about Bitcoin?
Well, I'm going to say this. So I don't look.
Or I should say, why would that be a criteria to use?
Do you want to know why I think about Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
You obviously.
Well, we've had many discussions.
Right.
So
I feel in Bitcoin that you can take this and invest into it, but I'm not looking to make money off of it. What I'm looking, and the reason why I invested is because I feel like it's going to have value when things do turn.
Correct.
Where the digital currency actually turns. It's not like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go invest $1,000 and I want to make $1,000. And
that's exactly the attitude that you have is exactly the attitude you should have. I mean, people need to understand, number one, why is there so much volatility and manipulation? Well, number one, because not even 10% of the world is using cryptocurrency or into cryptocurrency. Not even 10% of the world, but more like 7 or 8% of the world.
Do you think it's suppressed though because of it? Because of what's going on recently? It's suppressed?
Well, yes, but you got to understand that we are at the very early stages of adoption with a brand new belief system. Mm-hmm. We're not just talking about adoption with a new technology, which we are, but also with a new belief system. Because, and this is what I'm trying to say, is fundamentally at the end of the day, you know, what makes a fiat or American dollar, what makes that worth it? Because the world collectively as a whole says that the American dollar is what it's worth.
Yeah, but I feel like there's this hidden unknown. So look, if you're the government, mm-hmm. you come out and you say, look, we put the dollar out there.
Sure.
It's backed by gold, which we know it's not anymore. Mm-hmm. But you have confidence in it. Why? Because we're going to tell everybody else to use this and have confidence. Now, why would they not say, well, we're going to take the digital currency and say, you know what, ours is better than theirs because it's backed by the government? And
who's going to say that?
The government. When they create their own
That's
US
exactly what they're going to say.
Right. So why would somebody not understand or be different from that? Like, meaning understand the difference between non-centralized versus
education,
centralized.
Which is why we're doing this podcast. It's really like the thing that people have against Bitcoin is, number one, like I said before, number one, they don't understand it. And number two, there's a lot of misinformation about it, you know? So the misinformation I can educate people with, because once people understand the basics of it, you know, there's nothing negative that you can say against cryptocurrency that you can't apply towards fiat mm-hmm. or stocks or any other financial system. All it is a brand new financial system, and you're switching a belief system. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, it's a belief system. I mean, we can get technical on this and we can get technical on that, but does it matter? I mean, you run a business from your cell phone. You do your social media, you do your marketing, you deal with clients on there, you go through your data, your files, you send out, you know, leads, all these different things. But do you know the computer protocols that are happening on your phone or the internet to make that happen? Do you know the lines of code? Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. You don't need to, because you understand the point of what it's accomplishing and what it's doing. And it's made so simple. So all I'm saying is this: Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is in its very early stages.
Got you.
So there's a lot of things. So these false, not these falsehoods, but these criticisms that people have towards Bitcoin, a lot of it is legit. And I'm not here to argue with that and say that that's not true. All I'm saying is people are selective with what they apply their ideas and premises and conditions on. They're selective with those things, because you could apply that same thing with any financial market or any financial system, which is why I say at the end of the day, it's about getting down to a belief system.
Here's my thing though. How many of us were at the start of the last currency, right? This is the start.
What do you mean?
Well, so cryptocurrency, like you said, is very infant. It's in its infant stages. Mm-hmm. We weren't around when the dollar was created. You know,
absolutely.
Right? And so there's actually like a say-so into it. And there's some entitlement. So where I feel like you have a choice where you're born into a situation. You got the dollar. You're kind of just born into.
You're born into a doctrine, right? Where you're born into a world where you don't understand anything other than the American dollar is the strongest currency in the world. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you that by the day we are losing that foothold.
Right.
And you and I both know that the world cannot absolutely wait for America to slip.
Right.
They'll come swooping in. The rest of the world is bigger than America. And the rest of the world is starting to adopt this by the day because it suits their needs a lot more than it does in America. So it doesn't necessarily matter what our government thinks or how they feel or what they're going to try to stop or try to do, because we're talking about the world now. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about a switch of a belief system, right? A $20 bill and a napkin. I've done this before. A $20 bill laid down next to a napkin. Why is one worth $20 and one is worth nothing? Mm-hmm. They're both pieces of paper. Literally, they're both pieces of paper, but one piece of paper has a certain symbolism on it. So we say collectively as a whole, this piece of paper is worth something. And this napkin, collectively as a whole, we say that this piece of paper is worth nothing. Mm-hmm. They're both pieces of paper. So why is one worth one and one's worth nothing? Because the belief system behind it.
True. I understand.
That's the core of it. So when people get angry about Bitcoin or want to see you're wrong, or it's a falsehood, or it's a pyramid scheme, it's simply because they don't understand it. And number two, it challenges the core of their belief system of what they know. It's like religion or politics, man.
Right.
It really is. And that's like me walking up to somebody and say, hey, do you want to discuss politics and religion?
Yeah.
Money. Because if you can start with understanding the history of money, listen, you're not going to understand that a system is there screwing you over unless you understand that the system's broken. And any system run by humans is going to be, because until God quits making humans the way that he does, or she does, we're all going to be continuing to be made doing the same things, right? Mm-hmm. Greed, hunger, envy, all these things, power. You know, so that's what it really comes down to, you know?
All right.